ever stop to think about those invisible threads, the ones that somehow connect, the powerful speeches of ancient orators way back when, to the insights you might find in a modern self-help book? Or even, like, the quiet courage of someone making a real difference in their own community. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a really, truly magnificent collection of ideas. It's quite a mix. Yeah, this deep dive is a bit unique. We've gathered, well, quite a stack of sources. Everything from classical philosophy, real foundations, and those big historical calls to action, all the way through to contemporary thoughts on things like vulnerability, personal success. It's a wide range. Our mission, basically, if you're up for joining us, is to carefully pull out the most potent bits of knowledge, find those surprising connections, the ones you might not expect, and really distill the timeless wisdom that helps us understand, well, how words, ideas, and just the human spirit, how they shape our own lives and the wider world, too. Think of it like a journey, maybe. Exploring how influence and aspiration have evolved over time.
Absolutely. And, in today's world, there's just so much information coming at us, right?
Yeah.
Being able to gain knowledge quickly, but also thoroughly. That's not just nice to have. It feels pretty vital. So this deep dive, it's meant to offer a kind of shortcut, helping you see not just what was said in all these different sources, but really why it mattered back then, and maybe more importantly, how these ideas are still so relevant for your own journey. Whether you're dealing with personal challenges or chasing big goals, or maybe you're just curious, seeking a deeper understanding of, well, us, humans. We're aiming for those aha moments, but hopefully without making you feel totally overloaded with information.
Okay, let's dive in then. Part 1, the enduring power of the spoken word. Crafting influence and driving change. Let's start by unpacking something really fundamental. This whole idea of influencing other people, it's not new, right? No, at all. The ancients, they weren't just aware of it. They were, frankly, masters of it. They studied how to do it meticulously.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just a casual skill for them. It was a core discipline. And what's really striking when you look back at these foundational texts is how consistent the core principles of rhetoric, of persuasion, really are across centuries, even millennia.
Like, who are we talking about here?
Well, take Aristotle, for example. His work, rhetoric, it's foundational. He didn't just define rhetoric as, winning an argument, which is kind of how we sometimes think of it now. No, he framed it as the power of discovering all means of persuading by speech. That's a much bigger idea, isn't it?
Yeah, all means. That sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is. It suggests a deeper dive, almost like a science, into what makes people tick. Aristotle wasn't just about manipulation. He wanted to understand the human psyche. He actually looked into what sorts of things people are longing for and fleeing from when they turn their hands to committing injustice. Think about that.
Wow, okay. So understanding desires and fears.
Exactly. And he even listed out 7 basic causes for why people do things. Luck, nature, force, habit, reasoning, spiritedness, like passion, maybe, and desire. Just imagine understanding those drivers today, whether you're, giving a presentation, crafting a marketing message, or just trying to convince a friend of something. Knowing what motivates or scares someone lets you tailor your approach. It's about connecting, not just talking at people.
Right. It elevates it from just like throwing facts out there to actually engaging with what drives us as humans. It feels almost psychological.
It really is. And this idea of deep connection, it gets even more intense when you look at someone like Cicero, the Roman orator. In his work, De Orator, Cicero argued that real eloquence, true persuasive power, wasn't just about using fancy words. It was fundamentally tied to wisdom, deep understanding.
Wisdom and eloquence together.
Inextricably linked. For him, he believed an orator had to truly know the human soul. He said the orator must range over men's souls and explore their feelings and thoughts.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. Maybe his most profound point. He said an orator can't genuinely move an audience to feel pain or hatred or pity unless all those emotions, which the orator wishes to apply to the judge, seem to be imprinted and branded on the orator himself.
Wow. So you have to actually feel it. You can't just pretend.
Exactly. Authenticity is not enough to intellectually get the emotion.
Yeah.
You have to embody it. Feel it resonate within you for it to resonate with your audience. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our age of carefully crafted online profiles and public personas, how much of that genuine emotional connection are we losing?
That's a really good question. Are we becoming just performers of emotion, and what's the cost?
It's something to think about. You feel the difference, don't you? When someone's just reading lines versus speaking from real conviction.
Absolutely. One feels hollow, the other lands. It's about being authentic, not just performing.
Precisely. And then there's Quintilian, another Roman heavyweight. In his Institutio Oratoria, he echoed Aristotle a bit, defining rhetoric as the leading of men by the power of speech to the conclusion desired by the orator.
Mm.
But Quintilian was also super pragmatic. He pointed out, maybe a bit dryly, that persuasion isn't just for noble speakers. He said, harlots, flatterers, seducers also persuade.
Huh. Okay, so the tools can be used by anyone for any purpose.
That's the implication. The principles of influence work, whether used for good or ill. And Quintilian didn't just focus on what you say. He got really detailed about delivery. He talked about needing correct, clear, ornate, and appropriate language, fluent speech, a pleasant voice. These were all crucial. He even noted how your accent could give away where you're from. It shows how much the how impacts the what.
So it really is the whole package. It's not just logic. It's deep emotional understanding, genuine authenticity, and skillful delivery. A complex art that's clearly stood the test of time. Okay, so the ancients laid out this incredible blueprint for moving souls. But how did these ideas actually play out when, say, a new nation was trying to find its way, grappling with huge moral questions? Let's trace these threads into American history. Some incredibly powerful speeches there.
Yes, and what's fascinating is how these American speakers, maybe not always consciously quoting Aristotle, but they intuitively use these very principles. They use them to tackle the biggest moral and political crises of their day. Think about Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. It's still studied today, right? A total masterclass in saying so much with so few words.
Only 272 words, wasn't it? Amazing.
Exactly. Delivered at this incredibly pivotal moment, immense national grief during the Civil War. And Lincoln didn't just, memorialize the soldiers. He did something much bigger. He completely reframed the purpose of the nation. He shifted the focus from just surviving the war, from endurance, to this idea of a new birth of freedom. And he rooted it right back in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. In just those few words, he redefined America's identity, gave it a moral compass moving forward.
And that phrase, a new birth of freedom, it still resonates so powerfully today. It's like a continuous challenge to live up to that ideal.
It really is. It's a living aspiration, not just history. Then consider the sheer force of Sojourner Truth's "Ain't I a Woman" speech. Here's a woman who couldn't read or write, delivering this incredibly direct, powerful challenge to the norms of her time. Someone who heard her said her deep insight could penetrate the very soul of the universe.
Wow. What was the situation?
She was facing a potentially hostile crowd, but she stood there, calm and dignified, and just proclaimed, "We'll have our rights. See if we don't." Her speech hit hard on the double injustice faced by black women fighting for racial equality and gender equality. When she said, "Knowledge is power," it wasn't just a saying, it was a demand for agency. And she challenged the men directly. Convince them that you possess the spirit of men. She flipped the script on who had to prove what. It was raw, authentic, undeniable truth.
That raw truth cutting through everything, it shows you don't need formal credentials to speak with immense power, just conviction and truth.
Absolutely. Inner knowing, as you said. And then there's Frederick Douglass. His speech, "What to the slave is the 4th of July." Just devastatingly powerful. It was a searing indictment forcing his audience, many of whom are abolitionists but maybe complacent, to confront America's deep hypocrisy.
How did he do that?
He used incredibly vivid, almost brutal imagery, contrasting the joyous celebrations of freedom on the 4th with the horrific reality of slavery. He asked, point blank, "This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn." He described the man drover, the horrors of the slave trade, left no room for escape. It was meant to shock, to provoke a moral reckoning. But importantly, even amidst that fierce critique, he didn't end on despair. He saw forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery.
That balance, fierce honesty, but also hope. That must have been incredibly difficult to hear, but maybe necessary.
Necessary discomfort, exactly. Which brings us to another incredibly poignant moment, a moment of profound national shock and grief. Robert F. Kennedy's speech on the mindless menace of violence. He gave this the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, April 4th, 1968.
Oh, wow. I can only imagine the atmosphere.
It was incredibly tense. He was speaking mostly extemporaneously to a largely black audience in Indianapolis who were just reeling from the news. Riots were breaking out in other cities. And Kennedy, he didn't shy away from the horror. He spoke of the mindless menace of violence gripping the country. But his core message wasn't anger or revenge. He famously quoted the Greek playwright Aeschylus about pain and wisdom coming through suffering. He pleaded for compassion, for self-reflection. He urged the crowd and the nation to replace division and hatred with a common effort to understand, to love, to tame the savageness of man.
He managed to channel that raw grief towards something constructive.
He did. It's seen as a key reason Indianapolis didn't erupt in violence that night. It was an extraordinary act of leadership, speaking directly from his own experience of loss, calling for empathy in a moment where rage felt almost inevitable.
A powerful reminder of how words can guide us even in the darkest times. Tragically relevant, as you said earlier.
Sadly, yes. And then, shifting gears slightly, we have Booker T. Washington's Atlanta Compromise speech. This offered a very different approach. Pragmatic and definitely controversial.
The Atlanta Compromise, right? What was the core idea?
This was 1895. Post-Reconstruction South. Tensions were incredibly high. Washington advised both black and white audiences to cast down your bucket where you are. He basically proposed focusing on economic cooperation, vocational training, black self-sufficiency first. He said, in all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet one is the hand in all things essential to mutual progress.
So economic progress over immediate social integration.
That was the strategy, aiming for economic stability and a foothold for black Americans in the Southern economy, even if it meant accepting segregation for the time being. Now, it was heavily criticized, notably by W.E.B. Du Bois, as accommodating injustice. But it shows a leader adapting their message very specifically to a complex, dangerous context, trying to lead souls towards what they saw as achievable progress.
It's fascinating seeing the different strategies, different rhetorical approaches, all aiming to shape the future. What really stands out is how these historical figures, using these ancient principles of rhetoric, became, well, architects of change. These weren't just speeches, they were blueprints, showing how individuals, through words and conviction, can demand a better future, connect with an audience, and actually shift public opinion. Each aimed to lead souls, right? Understanding that words don't just describe reality, they can change it. Okay, now let's shift focus. From that grand stage, the national level, down to a more personal lens. Because there's another really powerful theme running through our sources, this idea that amazing opportunities often lie much closer than we think, right under our noses sometimes.
Yes, exactly. And there's a fascinating link here. Just like societal change often starts with a shift in perspective, so does individual transformation. It often begins by looking differently at what's already around you. Russell H. Conwell's lecture, Acres of Diamonds, it's a classic, and it really nails this idea, his core message. Every man has the opportunity to make more of himself than he does in his own environment.
So it's not about needing to go somewhere else or get something new.
Not necessarily. It's about recognizing the potential, the value that's already there.
Yeah.
In your current situation, your skills, your community, things we often overlook.
That makes me think of the main story he tells. Ali Hafed.
Ah, yes, the story of Ali Hafed is really the heart of the whole lecture. Ali Hafed, this wealthy Persian farmer, hears about diamonds and becomes obsessed. He sells his thriving farm, leaves his family, travels the world searching for diamonds, and dies poor and disappointed, having found nothing.
And the punchline is?
The devastating irony. The guy who bought his farm discovers the Golconda diamond mine, one of the richest ever, right there in Ali Hafed's old garden.
Oh, wow.
Right there all along.
Exactly. And Conwell's point is profound. Ali Hafed wasn't poor because he lacked resources. He was poor because he was discontented, and discontented because he feared he was poor. His failure was one of perception, not reality.
That hits hard. We do tend to think the grass is greener elsewhere, don't we? Chasing the next shiny thing instead of appreciating what we have.
We really do. And Conwell gives other examples, like the Pennsylvania farmer who sold his land cheap just before oil was discovered on it. Then he goes off to Canada to work collecting oil for someone else.
Oh, the irony. He had it right there.
Exactly. Abandoned his own acre of diamonds. But then there's a positive example, John Jacob Astor.
The wealthy businessman.
Right. How did he get started? Not some grand scheme, according to Conwell. He apparently just sat on a park bench, watched what kind of bonnets local women were actually buying and liking, then told his millinery store to stock those instead of just random stuff. Simple observation of immediate needs. Conwell asks, where is the man who would not get rich at that business? So his genius was just paying attention to what was right in front of him, like mindfulness almost.
Kind of. Applied observation. And maybe my favorite example is the Hingham toy maker.
What's that story?
A poor guy, out of work. His wife suggests he whittles some toys for their kids from scrap firewood. He does. Then, crucially, he listens to his wife and kids about what toys they actually like. He starts making those specific toys, using just firewood and a penknife, and eventually becomes a millionaire. his principle. What his own kids liked, other kids would probably like too. Start with what you know. What's right there?
That's amazing. Resourcefulness, listening, using what's available. It shows capital isn't just money, right? It's insight, ingenuity.
Precisely. It's about recognizing the value in the simple, the immediate, the overlooked.
So the big takeaway isn't just about getting rich, is it? It's much broader. It's about seeing the inherent potential in our work, our skills, our communities, maybe even ourselves, maximizing what's already here. And that really feels like it's about mindset, doesn't it? This
Right.
idea of finding opportunity nearby, it leads into a whole philosophy of personal achievement.
Absolutely. It's the foundation. The acres of diamonds idea isn't just about literal diamonds or oil. It's a metaphor for the potential within and around us. And this connects directly to how we think. Earl Nightingale's recording, The Strangest Secret Hugely Influential, hammers this home. He states, quite simply, a man's life is what his thoughts make of it.
Okay, the power of thought. We hear that a lot. What did Nightingale mean specifically?
It wasn't just positive thinking fluff. He stressed setting a definite and clearly defined goal, actively using your imagination to explore possibilities, speculate freely, and crucially, cultivating this belief that no circumstances can actually defeat you, an inner resilience. Then, taking promptly and decisively action. And he directly echoes Conwell. You are, at this moment, standing in the middle of your own acre of diamonds. Potential is internal first. It's about how you see things and what you do about it.
So it's a system, clear goal, imagine possibilities, believe you can overcome obstacles, then act decisively. Sounds like a formula.
It kind of is presented that way, and Tony Robbins, in books like Awaken the Giant Within, really builds on this. He frames success as a journey, not a destination. He emphasizes the power of your beliefs and managing your mental state, focusing on what you want, not what you fear, because your state drives your behavior and you can control your state.
Controlling your state.
Through focus, physiology, language patterns, and he strongly advocates modeling, learning from people who've already done what you want to do, shortcutting the process. And his line, limited goals create limited lives. That's a direct challenge, isn't it? Stretch your vision, unlock more potential. He even asks, could you earn 1,000 times more? And says, absolutely, if you find a way to be worth 1,000 times more, shifting focus from getting to becoming more valuable.
That's a big shift. It puts the responsibilities squarely on you to grow, to contribute more.
It does. And Zig Ziglar, another classic voice in this area, in See You at the Top, says something similar. Success is easy after you believe. He believed that setting a goal properly means it's already partially reached, because that act of defining it requires belief. He pushed people to identify their goals, use their talents, and constantly sharpen them through hard work. He emphasized pluck, that courageous determination over just waiting for luck.
Pluck over luck. I like that. It emphasizes effort and resilience. But where do all these ideas, this mental wealth, actually come from?
Great question. Nightingale also talked about creative thinking. He called the mind an inexhaustible storehouse for ideas, like a muscle you can develop. He even had rules for brainstorming. No negativity allowed initially. Wilder ideas are better. Aim for quantity first, then combine and improve. He encouraged questioning everything, like seeing a potential beautiful building on an empty lot, not just the empty lot, actively looking for possibilities.
So it's about training your mind to see potential everywhere, even where it's not obvious.
Exactly. It's an active process,
Uh,
which leads us naturally to the why behind it all.
right. What's the purpose of all this individual striving?
Simon Sinek's work, Start with Why, really connects personal drive to leadership and inspiration. His argument is simple but profound. People connect with why you do something, not just what you do.
The why, the purpose.
Yes. Having clarity on your why, your purpose, your core belief, and combining that with the how, your values, your principles, that's what leads to lasting success and genuine inspiration. He uses examples like early Apple or Walmart. They had a clear why that drove them. When that got fuzzy later, they faced challenges. He argues that when people believe in the why, they're more engaged, more innovative. They work for the shared belief, not just a paycheck. It guarantees success, in a way.
So that internal acre of diamonds isn't just for you. It's also about how you connect with and inspire others, building something meaningful together.
Precisely. It shows that our inner world, our mindset, our clarity of purpose isn't just about personal gain. It's the foundation for building thriving communities, businesses, movements, all united by a shared why.
Okay, this is fascinating. This consistent message about the untapped power of our own minds. It's not just wishful thinking. It's presented as a systematic approach. Define what you want, believe you can get it, act on that belief, uncover your own acres of diamonds, and inspire others along the way. Now, If part two was about looking inward for opportunity, part three seems to explore a different kind of inner strength, one that's maybe, well, counterintuitive. The courage to be vulnerable, to connect authentically with others. It suggests real power isn't in being invincible, but in being open.
Yes, this section really challenges our standard ideas of what strong means. Brene Brown's work, especially Daring Greatly, is central here. She makes this incredibly powerful argument about shame. She says, shame derives its power from being unspeakable. Just think about that. The secrecy fuels it.
So speaking it helps.
Exactly. By wrapping words around it. By daring to voice our shame, she argues, it begins to wither. It's about bringing it into the light. And she makes a crucial distinction between shame and guilt. Guilt is feeling bad about something you did. It can actually motivate positive change. But shame is that toxic belief that you are bad, fundamentally flawed. And that, she says, corrodes the very part of us that believes we can change.
That difference is huge. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. One allows for change, the other feels like a life sentence.
Perfectly put. And to fight that shame, Brown talks about shame resilience. It's the ability to feel the hurt, the disappointment, even devastation, and still say essentially, okay, this hurts, but my core value isn't success or approval, it's courage. And I was just courageous by showing up. So shame, you don't get to drive.
Wow. Redefining strength as the courage to feel, not the absence of feeling.
Exactly. And she connects this directly to the good stuff in life. Love, belonging, and joy. Vulnerability is essential for those. She points out how we often try to protect ourselves, maybe by rehearsing tragedy in our minds, or preemptively deciding things won't work out. Self-elected disappointment.
Trying to avoid being blindsided by pain.
Right. But in building those defenses, we also wall ourselves off from genuine joy and connection. It's like that fortress idea you mentioned keeps out the bad, but also the good. And her research found something pivotal. The key difference between people who felt a deep sense of love and belonging and those struggling for it wasn't circumstance. It was the belief in their worthiness.
Worthiness.
Yeah.
Believing you deserve love and belonging.
Yes. Our ability to connect deeply seems tied directly to our own sense of self-worth. And vulnerability is the bridge. To really show up to connect, we have to believe we're worthy of it, flaws and all.
This really does flip the script. True strength, true connection. It comes from openness, not armor. A bravery of the heart, like you said. And it seems like this personal courage, this willingness to be vulnerable and connect, is often what fuels the fight for justice and empathy in the bigger world, too.
Absolutely. That inner work often translates outwards. You see people using their deep convictions, their understanding of suffering, to push for change. Think about Elie Wiesel. In conversations with Elie Wiesel, he spoke so powerfully against capital punishment. He called it a spectacle, a ritual, a staging death. His argument was that the very act of turning death into this public performance was dehumanizing and therefore unacceptable. Coming from someone who witnessed the ultimate dehumanization, that carries immense weight.
The staging of death, that's a chilling phrase.
It is. His whole life after the Holocaust was this quest for understanding, for meaning in the face of suffering. That quest itself is an act of empathy, a refusal to let suffering be meaningless or ignored.
And then you have someone like Ruth Bader Ginsburg working within the legal system.
Right. Her judicial philosophy, from my own words, was clear. Do what is right, what the law requires, and what is just. She saw the court needing to be in dialogue with society, helping laws catch up with a changed world, especially on issues like gender discrimination. And her willingness to dissent, to stand alone when she believed the majority was wrong, that takes incredible courage. It showed her deep commitment to her understanding of justice. She was translating human needs into law.
Standing alone for your principles, that definitely requires bravery.
It does, and Harvey Milk embodies that too. His "you've got to have hope" speech really highlights the need for courageous leadership, especially for marginalized groups. He talked about how when established leaders hesitated, he felt compelled to take a strong position, even without formal power, even making enemies, because it had to be said.
Acting because it's necessary, not because it's easy or safe.
Exactly. It shows the personal risk involved in advocacy. His message was hope, but it was a hope born from taking action, from sacrifice.
Stepping up when others won't, driven by conviction.
Precisely. And look at Theodore Roosevelt. He spoke of a genuine democracy of spirit. He believed you couldn't have a real democracy alongside a powerful business oligarchy. Honesty in government was paramount. He wanted justice for all at home and believed peace abroad required mutual desire for it. And he acted on it, intervening in that coal strike in 1902.
He went beyond his presidential powers there, didn't he?
He did, to prevent acute misery and loss of life. It showed a willingness to act boldly, guided by empathy and a sense of duty to ordinary people, even if it meant pushing boundaries.
A leader acting on moral courage, not just legal authority.
Yes. And, even ancient philosophy gives us tools for this kind of resilience. Seneca, the Stoic, wrote about letters from a Stoic. He promoted self-sufficiency, yes, but also world citizenship, being part of the larger human family, and crucially, the ability to preserve an indomitable soul amid such distresses.
So Stoicism isn't about being emotionless or disconnected.
Not really. It's about enduring hardship, loss, collective struggles with inner strength and purpose, not retreating from suffering, but engaging with it resiliently. It's a framework for staying strong while connected.
That's a helpful distinction. And finally, maybe bringing it down to earth a bit, Kurt Vonnegut.
Ah, Veronica.
Mm.
Always brings a dose of humane wisdom, doesn't he? In works like, If This Isn't Nice, What Is?, he offers this beautifully simple advice. Father, we are here to help each other get through this thing, whatever it is.
Just help each other get through it. That cuts through a lot of complexity.
It really does. And he warns strongly against hatred as fuel. He points to Hitler resurrecting a nation with hatred and nothing more, a chilling reminder of where division leads. Instead, Vonnegut urges us to cherish the simple moments. He channels his Uncle Alex, who'd say during quiet, pleasant times, if this isn't nice, what is?
A call for presence, for appreciating the good right now. And community.
Exactly. Focus on connection, on simple kindness, on appreciating the nice moments as a way to navigate the hoopla, the chaos of the world. It's about quiet, consistent connection.
It's striking how all these figures from different eras, different fields, courtrooms, communities, philosophy, they all seem to get it. Real progress needs more than just laws or strategies. It needs that deep human connection, empathy, and the sheer courage to act on what you believe in, often starting with that one difficult, vulnerable step. Daring to care and then daring to act on it.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From the careful strategies of ancient rhetoric, through the fiery speeches that demanded justice and shaped a nation, then shifting inward to finding those acres of diamonds in our own lives and minds, and finally exploring the immense strength found in vulnerability and connection. What really seems to bind all these threads together, across time, across disciplines, is this profound understanding of how powerful words, ideas, and our own inner resolve truly are. They're the tools we have to navigate our world, and maybe more importantly, to actively shape it. From Aristotle to Vonnegut, the echo is there. Influence, purpose, success. They spring from an engaged mind, a compassionate heart, and the courage to speak and act.
Yeah, it really comes through. And as we saw again and again, whether it's literally finding diamonds in your backyard or challenging huge societal injustices, where does it usually start? Often it's just a single thought, a single question someone dares to ask, or a single voice finally deciding to speak up, to be vulnerable, to lead. So maybe the thought to leave you with today is this. What silent why, what deep purpose inside you is just waiting for you to give it a voice? And what acre of diamonds in your life, your work, your community have you maybe been overlooking? What just needs a fresh look, a bit of courage, and maybe some bold action to really start shining?